皆さん、こんにちは。Hello everyone、今回の SIAF ディレクターズラウンジは全編英語でお届けします。So I would like to switch my language from Japanese to English because today's episode is presented in English. SIAF ディレクターズラウンジ。Once again, hello everyone. I'm Hide Ogawa, Director of SIAF 2024, Sapporo International Art Festival. SIAF for short is a triennale art event held in Sapporo, Japan, which showcases the latest contemporary forms of artistic expression from around the world. In this podcast series, we invite a guest from a field that differs in each time and talk about the future.which is a key word for SIAF 2024. Today's guest is Gerfried Stocker, Artistic Director of Ars Electronica. Let me introduce Gerfried briefly. Gerfried Stocker is a media artist and an engineer for communication technology and has been artistic director and co-CEO of Ars Electronica since 1995. He is the one who has nurtured Ars Electronica as an ecosystem for future creation, beginning with the launch of Ars Electronica Center as well as the Future Lab in 1996. And he is also my dearest friend, mentor, and boss. Welcome, Gerfried-san.
Hello, Hide-san. It's nice to have the contact now in this podcast.
Yeah, unbelievable to have this session in this way. And I have learned so much from Gerfried you and learning more every day. If I looked back my past, how many times did I have my presentation to you? But of course, everything was my, really important experiences. But once again, I would like to ask a very fundamental question for both of us. What is Ars Electronica?
Yeah, you're right. It's a very fundamental question that we are continuously asking ourselves. And it's not only the question, what is Ars Electronica, but I think even more so, how is Ars Electronica? Because Ars Electronica itself really became synonymous with a very interesting form and prototype of a truly interdisciplinary institution, but also a truly interdisciplinary practice of work. I think this is very important that when we think about this idea of interdisciplinarity that is so important and so hot nowadays, very often we just think of formal structure of the organization. But it's much more, I think, a mindset. It's much more a way of working, and in particular of collaborating and bringing people into the organization, into the projects from all over the world. Like we had the great pleasure so many years ago to bring you and Emiko-san and all the things that you started afterwards. So what is Ars Electronica? That's the simple thing. Ars Electronica is, as I said, I think prototypic interdisciplinary institution. It started with a festival in 1979 already, so I was still a small kid when this started actually. And from the very first beginning, it was called Festival for Art, Technology and Society. And it was dedicated to the idea that through the perspective of artists and artistic work, we could better understand how this upcoming new technology of digital technologies, computers, networks, how this would create a transformational impact on culture and society, how it would change culture, how it would change society. And the festival was immediately very successful. So the people who founded it were not only great visionaries in terms of understanding the importance of digital technology, but in particular because they understood its social and cultural value. Digital technology, computer, not just is something that has a great value for industry, for the workshop, for technology, but even more so for society, for culture, and that it, of course, would bring a lot of challenges and a lot of problems that we will have to cope with. So why not invite the artists and the scientists together, the creative people and the technologists together to discuss these developments and to develop visions, like really blue sky visions of how could the future be like. And from this very dynamic Ars Electronica grew, and in the early 90s, when the World Wide Web opened the internet and the digital world to everybody, the people here in Linz had this, again, very great idea to say, okay, now after this festival, after this focus on artistic work, we should make a next step and start also an educational endeavor. And so they had this idea to create a permanent exhibition center, a museum, a training and education center, the Ars Electronica Center, which I had the pleasure to be the founding director in 1995. So we had to come up with practical ideas, how to make all these visions real and how to create a center, a museum that could deal with these ideas on a daily basis, opening every day in the morning for the visitors, maintaining all the stuff. So this was really a super exciting thing. And one thing that became totally clear at this point is, and this is what you addressed also in this question, is that it needs more than just to be a place for presentation. It really needs an ecosystem. Because if you want to deal in a serious way with the new topics, with the upcoming challenges, you cannot just, go to some store and purchase exhibitions and purchase good lectures. You need a group of people, you need a team that is able to manage it, to deal with it, to work with it. And just to be able to realize the exhibitions for this completely new center, everything was interactive at this time already. We had huge virtual reality environments that were really mind-blowing for the time in the mid-90s. We needed to gather a lot of people, hackers, engineers, artists, developers, and they became also the basis for what soon became the Future Lab, a professional laboratory for the collaboration of art and technology, art and science, but also a laboratory that was aiming to work for industry and business. Because at this time, of course, many companies came and said, we heard about World Wide Web, we heard about virtual reality. How can we explore what it could mean for us, for our business? And this was a great way for us to really recognize also ourselves that there is an ecosystem. You can create a kind of ecosystem in this cyclic form where creativity is the output, is the thing that comes out of the soil, and then you nurture it, you take care of it, and more it grows. And of course, then the output of this creativity can be put in place again in this cycle of value creation, and you can contribute to new developments in business and industry, but of course, very important for us always in terms of society and social innovation. And so in these years, we added many different elements. The core elements are still Festival for the Art, Center, Museum for Education, and Future Lab for Research and Development. And then probably you are a much better person to talk about developments like Ars Electronica Japan and all the wonderful international activities that we could start when we were able to gather people like you into our teams. Recently, maybe that's the last thing to say about the development of Ars Electronica. In the years of pandemic, we immediately, when the lockdown came, started to build up not only a new division for streaming and broadcasting content, but something that we call our Future Thinking School, a new department in Ars Electronica that is now also commercially successful, working in training and education. So we have the full scope from the kids in the kindergarten and the schools that we take care of in the museum, to the students, to many universities that hire the Future Lab as tutors for their courses and workshops, and also towards the industry and economy. And I think one of the things that we are most proud of now is that we are really an active agent in collaboration with the services for unemployed people here in Austria. So Ars Electronica Center became a center also for inspiration and training of unemployed people, giving them so there's a new perspectives. And I think that's what the ecosystem is about. It is a cycle, but it's a cycle that, like a spiral, always brings out new things that are so important for our future developments.
Great. And yeah, of course, for SIAF, Sapporo International Art Festival is still a festival. It's not such a big, ecosystem yet, but it's clear that I'm definitely projecting the idea of Ars Electronica to this festival. Then this year, after the long tunnel of the pandemic, we had a festival this just last few weeks ago, September. And actually, we used the Johannes Kepler University, local university, under the metaphor of Kepler's garden. And actually, the name of the Kepler's garden is definitely inspired from the concept of ecosystem in our time. So then the theme of this year's festival was Welcome to Planet B. Different life is possible, but how? I would like to know, could you explain the theme?
Yeah, I mean, creating themes for a festival is always a super exciting issue. And probably it's for me, sometimes it's the most exciting period of this annual cycle to produce festival every year, because you need to find out what are the topics that are really hot and important. But also you need to look, is there enough substance there? Are there enough artists, activists, scientists who really can contribute to make this big program? And you mentioned already, since 3 years now, our festival takes place as the main venue on the campus of our local university, because it's actually the only space in the city that we can invade for 2 months with all the preparations, where we at the end have more than 500 projects that we are hosting throughout the festival. And the theme, of course, is the first moment where a festival becomes tangible. This is the key to success very often, because it needs to inspire not only the people that you want to invite or the visitors, but also the team that works on it, that develops it. So it's again a little bit like this kind of ecosystem system. And I think one important point is always to start with a contradiction. And nowadays we very often hear there is no planet B. And of course it's right, there is no planet B. There is no other place, other planet where we could just escape when we are ruining our wonderful planet here, our Earth. But then again, we thought, well, maybe planet B is not a place, not a space where we can find a new future, but a completely different way of conducting our life, of understanding our relationship with each other, our relationship with environment, and also our relationship to technology. And so we said, okay, let's consider planet B is not a different space, but a different way of living. And with this came immediately the possibility to create a festival that is very seriously dealing with the very problematic, difficult, and frightening topics of our time, but not create a festival that would end up in a completely depressive, pessimistic session where, after discussing for 5 days all the catastrophes and chaos of our time, where we all would be completely down, but the other way around. Because a festival is a very important instrument to get things going. And this is really amazing how much impact a festival actually can have on your local community where a festival takes place, but of course also in this rippling effect to international audiences. And so there came a kind of subtitle also to this festival, almost, or a sub-theme, where we said, optimism is anyway not a belief that things will go all right. Optimism is the will, the dedication to contribute, to work on things getting better. And with this idea, it was really great to gather a lot of people. And it was, as planned, actually not a festival about the climate catastrophe, but of course about how can we deal with it, about the consequences of this climate catastrophe. And we made this very simple trick. We said, okay, let's project 50 years in the future. Let's imagine we are now 2050 and we have somehow survived. The Earth is still there, humanity is still there, we are still living in a good way. So what was necessary to change so that we are able to come to a positive situation in 2050? And this was really super interesting because it really gave a lot of spirit. And I could talk, of course, endlessly of many really great projects with many people from literally all over the world who came together to discuss these options for our future.
I think the festival theme is very, very connecting to my festival, topic. Actually, Gerfried and I discussed a lot before announcing the official theme here in Sapporo about the last snow itself. But maybe concerning this year's festival, what was the new discovery in this year's festival? Because also I got quite interesting new, in a way, positive mindset from artists. But if you have some keywords regarding this year's festival through many artistic projects and also discourses happened during the festival, may I know about some keywords from you?
I think it's not only in terms of, super new discoveries. Oh, wow, I never did think about it. What's even more important, I think, in particular now is confirmation, that you get this confirmation from so many people who are, with all their energy, who are contributing with new ideas, with new prototypes, with artistic developments, to create alternative thinking and awareness for our society. And I think the best discovery is, again, to see that hundreds of people are out there doing really great projects. And we see it from very theoretical and conceptual approaches to real physical prototyping of how could we work with alternative materials, how could we think about new ways of not only generating energy, but working, utilizing energy in different ways. And for me, a very important point was actually this rethinking technology. Because in the recent years, we all became more and more skeptical about technology. And it seems, this idea that technology will save the world and technology will solve our problems is really stupid and naive. But this doesn't mean that we don't need technology. And it's not necessary to develop the super new, never conceived of technology, like, this kind of magic wand that is changing everything. It's just if we start to rethink what with our technological genuity, I mean, human beings are so great in developing technology. But very often, unfortunately, we are super bad in the applications of technology. So with all the genuity that we have, we just have to start to rethink, how do we build our houses differently? How do we build our cities differently? How do we organize work, family, leisure in different ways to create completely different patterns of mobility and traffic? All these things, agriculture, all these things need new ideas. How can a city be resilient in the age of climate change? This is, of course, an intellectual, it's a social, it's an emotional challenge, but it's also very much a technological challenge. So if we create a new sound relationship towards technology, I think we can really get a very strong step forward in preparing for the unavoidable changes that are coming. I mean, that's the reality. It's not about to develop ideas or to think about that we can avoid the consequences of climate change. Climate change is there. The consequences are coming. So let's prepare for it. And this needs a new relationship to technology. And one important thing is, in terms of learning, we must not leave technological development only in the hands of business and industry. We need to become active agents. Each of us on different levels, of course, on different levels of expertise, but the important thing is agency.
Yeah, we got such a powerful one keyword, rethink. Such very fundamental things. But by rethinking, many people are now starting to react is also, the things that we found also through the festival. And connecting to that, this year I was extremely happy because I found many my friends from Japan, and many Japanese artists traditionally participated in the festival. But again, they came back to the festival. I was really happy to see many, our friends this year. The Ars Electronica Festival itself has deep ties with Japan, really. And what do you think are the characteristic of Japanese media artists and art?
Well, this is, of course, a very long and exciting story because, as you said, we have such a profound history in connections and collaboration with artists, organizations, universities from Japan, really going back to the very early years of the festival. And I think this has very much to do with one feature, so to say, of Japanese media art or art and science communities that sticks really out for me. And this is this ability to really connect technology with humanity and with environment. I mean, of course, also, Japan is a super high-tech nation since was one of the pioneering countries in introducing high technologies and delivering new technology all over the planet. So there is, of course, a very strong business and industry side of technology in Japan. But in particular, the artistic work and the artistic mindset has been from the very early time, I think, really been informed by this idea that there is this great also cultural tradition, of course, of Japan, to see things interconnected, to see humanity not separated from nature and environment, and therefore, of course, also to see technology not separated from nature and the environment. And I think this led very early to a better and deeper understanding of these interrelationships and the consequences, and that, so to say, we as humans, again, using this term agency, we are the ones who are responsible to make sure that these things connect, that those things don't always destroy each other, but that they can be very fruitful, beneficial. And the second important thing, of course, is, and I think this is definitely one of the success factors of Japanese media art, because no matter where you go worldwide, Japanese artists are always, so to say, on top of the list of every festival exhibition here, is, of course, a very fine tradition of handcraft that, of course, has also a lot to do with Japanese tradition and culture. And being able to develop ideas, not just conceptually in a very nice way, but also in all the minute details, and the very careful design, not just in terms of making them beautiful, but expressing the idea also through the beauty of the work and the installation. And I think a third point might be that, of course, Japan, because it was one of the earliest countries, so to say, going into this new technological era, is, of course, also one of the first countries to see and experience many of the problems that are coming with it, whether it's the aging of society, whether it's, of course, environmental things. I mean, the situation of super dense urban centers. I mean, these are all like laboratories for the way how, on a global scale, we have to deal with the problems of the future. We have to design the life of the future. So it is this kind of simultaneity of really facing the challenges and understanding art as a responsibility, but also, of course, this excitement and this pleasure of wonderful handcrafting and developing ideas also in a very beautiful sense.
Great. Yeah, we can learn from what you said, especially this really craft and also details and also hybrid, natural kind of language to express for the future. Actually, the SIAF 2024 is very much focusing on the art and especially media art. And the SIAF 2024 is happening in Japan, in that Japan. And the festival theme is last snow where the future begins, as we discussed. Of course, I would like to know about your impressions and also expectations about this festival theme. Would you tell me about your expectations?
I had the pleasure to have several discussions and nice meetings with you where you introduced your ideas, and it was immediately extremely exciting and convincing. I like the title very much because it has this quality of ambiguity. And I think that's a very important point. The festival title needs to open different perspectives and different directions, because a festival, and this is of course also what I'm expecting from your festival, from SIAF, and a festival is always a laboratory. I think this is a very important part. We have big international art events that are like super shows, where you approach them and you expect, okay, now this is the best of the best and the most elaborated project or the most selling art pieces or whatsoever. But that's not a festival, that's a show. A festival is a place where things are happening. It's a place where things are being questioned. It's a place, a space, a realm where you are allowed to take the risk of failure as well, because we all know that's one of the most important things. We can only develop new ideas when we are open enough that the development sometimes might go in wrong directions. And this is all what a festival can do, because a festival can implement so many different areas. And this is why, again, the title needs to be already able to draw different groups, different perspectives, so that the festival, because this is what a laboratory needs. A laboratory needs agents and reagents. I mean, this is like in a chemical laboratory. You need the different substances that you put together and then you heat them up. And then you have this, as we often called it, and this is a word that you also coined, is the catalytic moment of this artistic activities. When artistic activity combined with artistic experience, because this is also what the festival is about. It's about not just the meeting between audience and the artwork. Again, this would be the great show. But the festival also, with its compression in time, is always the possibility to have a meeting between the audience and the artists and the process of the artist and the work of art. And this is really like this kind of chemical laboratory where things are happening. And in this way, it's really like a kind of chain reaction that a festival can deliver. But of course, therefore, it's necessary, and I know that you are super aware of this and put a lot of attention towards, is to make sure that you have connections to the local communities. And I think this is, again, in terms of this reaction chamber. This is the nice thing. You bring in stuff from all over the world geographically, but also in terms of mindsets. Very different things. It's a lot of reaction. And then the impact is this wonderful impact that you can have into your local communities, into the city, into the region, into the country, by inspiring people and giving them, I mean, there is this very popular word now, this nudging, you don't have to push people, just nudge them a little bit and give them ideas and say, well, try to look in this direction. Maybe this is something where you can discover something new. And it's giving people the opportunity to discover on their own, not just being like the super guy who says, I know what's right and I know what's cool and I show you now my best products. I mean, this is advertisement. This is industry. Art is about discovery.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah, Gerfried said our festival shouldn't be a show, but a laboratory for the future. I think it's such a powerful statement. And also, definitely, I'm trying to achieve to do so. And the festival itself is definitely the place where people can be encouraged from the encounters with artistic processes for the futures. And also this should be not just a single the future, but plural expression as futures. I think a very important thing, also connecting to local communities and also for global audience. Thank you very much, Gerfried san. Today's guest was Gerfried Stocker of Ars Electronica. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to your festival.
Thank you. The last part of the program is Hide's 1-minute keyword for SIAF 2024, where I introduce a keyword that would help you enjoy SIAF 2024 even more. Today's keyword is ecosystem. As Gerfried mentioned today, creation requires an ecosystem. In biology, an ecosystem represents a cohesive community of organisms that encompasses their own diversity, environment, and interrelationships. How can we continue to create and learn future's literacies in this diverse and complex world? To do so, we need an ecosystem that considers how art, technology, and society should change with the times and resonate with each other. How was today's podcast program? We will continue to introduce international discussions as well in English from time to time. Stay tuned for our next program. Thank you for listening and see you again.